Today's mindset topic is discipline over motivation. Motivation is what gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going even when motivation disappears. And trust me, it will disappear. There will be days where you don't even want to look at a chart. Days the market doesn't make any sense. Days you feel like you're not progressing fast enough. And motivation won't show up for those days. Discipline will. Here's what discipline looks like in trading. It looks like following your rules even when you don't feel like it. It looks like sitting on your hands when there's no setup. It looks like closing the platform after your daily loss limit is hit instead of trying to make it all back. Discipline is a decision you make before you even sit down at the chart, not in the moment. Because in the moment, your emotions will always argue with your rules. So decide right now before you even ever go live that you will follow your rules regardless of how you feel. That decision will save your account more times than any strategy ever will. So let's get into the charts. Last week, we covered trends, uptrend, downtrend, consolidation, and how to read the market top down. This week, we're adding the next piece, a little flavor. We are going to be talking about the break of structure. This is where the strategy starts to come alive because the trend tells you the direction, but break of structure tells you the market is actually continuing to move in that direction or reversing into another direction. These two concepts together are the backbone of everything we're going to build. By the end of today, you'll know what a break of structure is, what it confirms, how to tell a strong one from a weak one, and how support and resistance fit into all of it. So we're going to go back to 9 a.m. and I'm going to walk you through what my thought process is. This is what the charts are looking like. So over the past 2 weeks, NAS has finally decided to hit new all-time highs. So that's amazing, something that we've been waiting for a while. And every time we got close, we ended up dumping a lot, but we finally are there. So for me, I've just been looking for buys. I mean, if we look here, it's just been buys. It's nothing confusing about it. We start with our top-down analysis. What does the top-down analysis do? The top-down analysis allows us to have our bias for the day. So it helps in creating bias for the day. I'm starting with a higher time frame and working my way down. So I come to my daily and look. And the reason why this is so important, yes, it gives us the idea of whether we want to buy or sell for today because we're trading today. But it also is assisting us in seeing our levels. Where are we in the market? Because again, trading is us identifying patterns and being able to see, okay, I've seen this before. This happened before at this price level. Price reacted this way. So all I'm doing is just looking to see certain key levels in the market that I need to pay attention to, in addition to understanding whether I'm going to buy or sell for today. So as we can see here, this is where we were stuck in a range for a while. We were stuck in a range for a very long time through here. And then at some point we ended up breaking out to the sell side. And then we started to buy up since March 31st. We've been buying up ever since, as you can see. So here I know that the buyers are in control. We are on an uptrend. We hit new alts after we passed here. That was new all-time highs. And we've just been creating more all-time highs, new all-time highs every single day. Now, one thing is that when looking at this, I don't know why people love all-time highs so much, but for me, it could be a little tricky. Why? Because again, we're always looking to the left to see previous data. So if we are at all-time highs, remember like when we used to trade zones, if we look to the left, there's nothing there. We don't know where sellers are going to come in at, when price can turn around because there's no data there, right? This is all new data printing in real time. So all I'm going to do is just create and pinpoint where I have my support and resistance zones. So right here, I see a level of what? What do we call this right here? A level of what at the bottom? Buyers are sitting here and they're stopping price from doing what? Buyers are sitting here and they're stopping price from going lower. Remember,
we're in an uptrend, right?
Yep.
So when
Yep.
we're in an uptrend, uptrend has what? Higher highs,
Higher
higher
highs.
lows, higher
Yep.
highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. So basically, I'm looking for places where I notice that, okay, this is where the higher low ended. We should never be coming back down here. We should always be continuing to move
Go
up.
up.
I'm also marking out a level. So this is 9. So right here, up here is where I have a level of resistance. Why is this resistance? Because this is a level where we were going up, and for some reason, sellers were sitting right here and they pushed price down. Not just because it's a red candle, but because we see we haven't gone higher. Support and resistance is like a wall. For some reason, there are sellers sitting here stopping price from going where? Not necessarily whether it's red or green, it's the fact
Oh.
that we can see clear rejection right here. Because this candle could have been green, but it still is not higher than the previous
Oh.
candle. Red and green right now doesn't matter. You see how I have this gray box or
Yeah.
this gray rectangle? It's because this is an area of rejection. When we're putting our line here, this is a definitive line, definitive point in the market that it has to pass. This gray area, because if you see as we start to go in deeper, we would adjust, right?
Yes.
Because it's an area. This is an area of rejection. So by the time we get to our 5 minutes right here, we can see that this is the area of rejection here, and this is an area of rejection here. So all we're doing is, and then honestly, we can tighten this up a bit. So this is what I'm seeing in the market when I come in. So honestly, this is what I'm looking at right here, because this was our last swing low, meaning was our higher low. And if the is continuing, I want to see breaker structures to the upside, and I don't want to see us go lower than here. Because if we start to go lower than here, that means we're now breaking structure to the downside, and we're having a change of character, which means now we're creating lower lows, because actually that is what we started to do. We started to create a lower high, and then we created a lower low. So this right here is starting to have a change of character for a downtrend. But I already have my bias of a buy. And this is why it's important for us to have our bias. Because when you have your bias, it does not matter what the market is doing. Unless it definitively tells us that we are going to start selling, there's no reason for me to be looking for sells, knowing that all I've been seeing is buys. Why am I looking for sells and we have all this buying? Price doesn't just go up, it has higher highs and higher lows. So sometimes when we do see sells, which we may take sells, but it's short term, because that means we're just creating a higher low. If we want to see the trend continue, we need to see a break of structure up here,
Yep.
because that lets us know we want to continue. Because right here shows that sellers have power right here, and sellers could drive price down. But if buyers can get through here, that means that the buy trend is continuing. And that is why having the break of structure is so important. So here we are in the market. So I know I'm looking for buys, and I need to give myself an opportunity to get into the buy. So what ended up happening is that we ended up getting this rejection here at 9:30, and now, ultimately, for me to really know that the buy is going to continue, I need to see a break of structure. But remember, we have things called minor break of structures and major break of structures. Why is this important? Number one, minor break of structures are okay, but they are lower probability. Why are minor breaker structures lower probability? Because we can break this minor breaker structure right here and just kind of come up a little bit and still sell off. That doesn't fully to for us to fully know that the buyers are continuing the uptrend. This is ideally what we want to see. We want to see us come out
Oh.
here, because this is creating a higher high. But sometimes what can happen is once we come here, we can kind of start the buy pattern all over again. So in creating that, we can still get a nice good buy between here because this is 185 points. That's a lot of room for you to get your buy in here. So what happened, and also too, that's preferable to take our buy from down here because my line is ugly. It's preferable to take a buy from down here because why is it better to take a buy from down here than to take a buy right here? If we buy from right here, that's a lot better than buying from right here.
If
So
you're
we want to
okay.
wait for the pullback because the last thing you want to do is get in right here at the
And then
highest point. We still have to have our pullback. That's either going to take you out the trade or put you in drawdown a lot. So you want to wait till we come down here into that zone, buy right here, and at least at the minimum, you can take it back to this same high, or you can take it past the higher high. In this range, there's a lot of room for you to ride the buys to make your money
Okay,
before we
so
hit the
that's good.
sellers. We don't want to see this. And
Thing.
the only reason why this is support right here is because in the uptrend, all we did was create a higher low. That's it. Price has the permission to come here and still go higher as long as we don't break the higher low.
I want to leave you with 2 things to be cautious about. First, don't take sells right at support. Don't take buys right at resistance. Use those levels as warnings and not triggers. Second, a minor break of structure on a low time frame is not your signal to enter. Check the higher time frame. Is the major structure broken there too? If not, wait. The market will test your patience before it rewards it every single time.
So this is where we are. And now we have some areas where we can look at minor break of structures. Why is this minor break of structure? Again, all this is telling us that we are going to continue into the buy trend. The major break of structure would be this. Why? Because this is the highest point,
Okay.
right? But again, if we start breaking structure to the upside here and here before we get to here, again, we rather take a sell somewhere, a buy somewhere around here. So taking a minor break of structure, this is where a low probability becomes more of a high probability trade, only because it gives us more room before hitting here. Because there's no, yes, we're in an uptrend, but based off of what we see right here that happened to the left, there's no guarantee that we're going to come out of this range. There's no
Right.
guarantee of that because realistically, we can come right here and push right back down again and then start consolidating and ping ponging in between. So realistically, we don't even know for sure we'll even come back this high. So that's why we have to be patient and wait. So now we're looking here and we start to see price just kind of stall out a little bit. Now
Yeah,
we're kind of
a little
seeing
bit.
price consolidate and box up here. We're not really getting anywhere. So we actually hit this level of support, but it's interestingly enough, we get this green candle come down, wick out of here, but we can still see this level of support is strong. How do we know the level of support right here is strong? Simply because look at this wick. This wick tells us a story. This wick tells us that price tried to come all the way down here and buyers said, nope, get back up there. Get back up there. And not only did it push price up, but it also closed green. So that means buyers are still sitting in this area very strongly. So this is a good sign to me. So now we're still here playing in this range, but this is what ended up happening. Even though it's very, very small, we had a minor break of structure right here. So our step one, it is very small. Like if I make this gray or a different color, we would probably, if you look here, you see that this green wick came a little bit higher than this point here. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, ugh, I would have loved to see price come up a little bit more and have a stronger break. But remember, we have 4 steps. So in this case, we know our bias is buys. So the
Yeah.
trend is uptrend. So now step 2, wait for a break of structure. What does the break of structure tells us? Trend is continuing
Get my word
or
out is
mm,
reversal. Okay.
exactly. Now, step 3 would be identifying our supply or demand zone. Because
Yeah.
I'm looking for buys, That means I'm looking for a demand zone. I want to see price come back and tap into this zone. So this is my demand zone. Why is this my demand zone? Because I'm looking for buys. Your demand zone is the most recent red candle. So after the break of structure, so demand zone, most most recent red candle after the break of structure. So we got a really tiny break of structure. And to be honest, I wanted to see it break more, but this is what it gave. So we ended up getting a tap into the zone. Okay, so we have our demand zone. Step 4 is now wait for our tap into the zone. So all that means we just want to see a candle come and tap the zone. The box is the zone.
Right.
All we want to do is just come and touch that zone. So I know that if price comes back up here, right here, this would be my trade idea, my stop loss here, and I will go 1 to 2. This would be my trade idea right here. We get this next candle, but I didn't get an entry. So right now I have nothing. Nothing. I'm sitting on my hands and I'm waiting. But the one thing that's most important is I do not want to see the candles come out of this zone. Once it comes out of the zone is invalidated and there's no trade. Now that I see the candles are really much in the zone, I am waiting to get a green candle close. Why am I waiting for a green candle close? Because I am waiting to see some sort of confirmation that we are going to continue with the buys. Because remember, now if we look here, what do we see here? This is a small level of resistance right here because price has not been able to come higher. So this is another reason why minor breaker structures can be low probability sometimes because we may be just creating a lower high to continue a downtrend. So that's why we have to be careful with that. But anyway, I waited for a green candle. We didn't get a green candle, but one thing that we did get that really was like, okay, if we get a green candle, it gives me my confirmation that I can definitely get that this buyers are going to come back. Because what did we do right here on this red candle? Can you tell me what this red candle just did right here? It's tapped right
Yeah.
on that support.
Yeah.
So what is that telling me? That is confirming to me that buyers are still sitting here. Buyers are still sitting here, stopping price from going lower. So I see that, and then I see this candle, and I'm like, we are in the game. We are in the game. So all I need, and I was like, I was hoping that it wouldn't get too far from me so that I can get an entry. So I said, if we come above here in the next candle, this would be my stop loss. This 1 to 2 would be my take profit. And then we got our entry, and I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, because remember,
It's
right
close.
here, we have some level, for
Yeah.
some reason, we're not able to break past here. So I need to see price break through here. I get this candle. It's a little wishy-washy. Not really trying to, because look, you see this wick right here. What does that tell us? Some sellers are sitting here trying to stop price from going higher. But luckily, we got this. Then we get this candle. This is what we call a doji candle. A doji candle just simply means that there is some type of confusion in the market. Not confusion, but more so there's a battle between the buyers and the sellers, and they're pulling and pushing the same amount. So we're kind of having an indecisive candle. We don't really know if it wants to be green. We don't really know if it wants to be red. So I'm just like, man, this might not look good, but then we finally break above. Now I'm feeling confident and I hold on to this trade. And I knew that if we could pass this one here, I kind of knew we would be good to go. And I think like my 1 to 1 was somewhere like right here. And this was my 1 to 2 right here. So ideally, I should have held it to 1 to 2. Long story short, I got out somewhere around here and look how it ended up playing out. It went up over 1 to 3 so far. And if we just leave the bar replay, this is where we currently are in the market right now. So this was an amazing trade. I should have held it to my 1 to 2 like I was supposed to. But again, this is you risking $100 for $200, risking $1,000 for $2,000. And it went 1 to 3 actually. So you're risking 100 for 300. Simple, easy, 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 easy. 4 steps. I know my trend was an uptrend. I got my break of structure. I identified my zone. I waited for a top, got my entry, set my stop loss, set my take profit, and I let the trade do the job and it played out. I want to make sure that we have this because the break of structure is so important. It's so important. I'm going to take just this data right here. I know this right here is my high that I need to see the break of structure. So that means when I got that candle, that was my break of structure. This was the candle that broke structure. This is the data that we're looking at in this box. None of this exists, only
Yeah,
this. So we have our series of green candles. And when we see, we're waiting for our red candle. When we see our red candle, that's when we put our line. So we see our red candle. When we see our red candle in an uptrend, this lets us know that we're probably done making our higher high. Not we're probably, we've made our higher high. The red candle lets us know that we've finished making our higher high in an uptrend. So we get our red candle, right? When we get our break of structure, that lets us know that we are done creating our higher low, because now we just created a new higher high based off of the break of structure. How is it a new higher high? Simply because this high, when we broke structure, this high is bigger than this last high, which is the reason why we put our black line here. So once we break through there, we know our higher low is done creating. Now we've come up created a higher high. We don't move the black line yet. We have all these green candles, but then we finally get a red candle. So because we finally get a red candle, we're putting our line at the highest point. This is why I do the bar replay, because with the bar replay, we can see, if we see this is just all the data that we have right here. So you may want to actually go ahead in your Trading Blue account and maybe even use the 30-day free trial so that you can practice bar replay, so that you can see it see it kind of like in real time, because this is what we see now. So now we have our high, our higher low. We see that we created a higher high. Now we see that we have a red candle. So now we have our red candle, we put our black line here. Now we're waiting for a break of structure. Our break of structure is when we pass the line. We've passed the line. So that lets us know our higher low is done being created, because we just got a break of structure. We do not move our line yet until we get a red candle. This is a red candle. So now we move our black line to the highest point, not the red candle, not the green candle, to the highest points after the red candle. So now that we have this, this is telling us that this higher high is done being created, because now we have a red candle. Now we're waiting for a break of structure. We have a break of structure. We don't move the line yet, but what this tells us is that the higher low is done being created. So now we have this. We don't move our black until we get a red candle. We got a red candle. We move our black line to the highest point. Us having a red candle tells us that the higher high is done being created. Okay, so now I'm going to, let me delete this so we're not getting confused here. Now we need to wait for a break of structure. We need to wait for a candle to bust through the black line. This is a break of structure. What does this tell us? The higher low is done being created, because we have a break of structure. We do not move our black line yet until we get a red candle. Now we got our red candle. Now, being that we got our red candle, we're moving our black line to the highest point, not to the green candle, not to the red candle, to the highest point. Whether it's red or green, it does not matter. It just needs to be the highest point after we see a red candle. Now we wait for a break of structure. This is not a break of structure because it did not pass our our black line. We do not move the line to the green, to the other green. We keep it here until we get a break of structure. Now we still don't have a break of structure. Okay. Still don't have a break of structure. 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 As long as it takes, we don't have a break of structure. There's nothing that we can do. Now we have a break of structure. Do we move our black line? We have
No.
no reason to move our black line. Nothing has happened besides the break of structure. That's telling us the uptrend is continuing. Okay. Now we have a red candle. Now we move our black line to the highest point. Doesn't matter if it's red, it doesn't matter if it's green, it's to the highest point after the red candle, so on and so forth. So that is how we're doing it on an uptrend. I'm going to go through it on a downtrend real quick. We're looking here. So we have our series of red candles. We're looking, we don't have a line yet or anything until we get a green candle. Once we get our green candle, we put our line at the lowest part, not because it's red, not because it's green, but because it's the lowest part and we're on a downtrend. So now we have to wait for a break of structure. This was a tiny break of structure. We'll take it. So now we wait for a green candle. We got a green candle. We're putting our line to the lowest part. Doesn't matter if it's red, doesn't matter if it's green. It is just the lowest part. Now we're waiting for a break of structure to let us know we are continuing the downtrend. These are not break of structures. It is not breaking to the downside. So we are waiting until we get a candle to go through this black line. Now we have this candle going through the black line. This lets us know the trend is continuing down. Now we don't move our black line until we get a green candle. Now that we've gotten a green candle, now we can move our black line to the lowest point. It does not matter if it's red or if it's green, we are moving it to the lowest point. Now we're waiting for a candle to come through this black line. This is not a break of structure because it did not come through the black line. This is a break of structure because it came through the black line. We do not move our black line until we get a new green candle. Once we get a green candle, then we can move the line. So now we have a green candle. We're moving the line to the lowest point. It doesn't matter if it's red. It doesn't matter if it's green. It is to the lowest point. Now we have a break of structure. We don't move the line until we get a new green candle after the break of structure. Okay, so we have our break of structure. We're waiting for a green candle. We've gotten 3 red candles. We still will not move our line. We're not moving our line to this red, to this red. No, we leave it until we see a green candle. Now that we have a green candle, we move our line to the lowest point. Doesn't have to be red, doesn't have to be green. It just has to be the lowest point. Now we wait for our break of structure. Our break of structure is when we come through the black line. If we don't come through the black line, we do not have a break of structure to the downside, and that's what we're looking for. So we finally got that break of structure, and then we got a green candle. What do? We move our black line to the bottom, the lowest part, and it doesn't matter if it's red, it doesn't matter if it's green, and that is how the downtrend break of structures look.
That's session 3, y'all. Trend tells you the direction, break of structure confirms we're actually continuing to move. So your homework, as always, this week, go back to your daily chart review. This time, add 1 step. After you identify the trend, mark your support and resistance zones with rectangles. Then look for the most recent major break of structures that happened. Now, don't look for trades. Just find the break, label it, screenshot it. You're training your eyes because in the markets, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So journal template is in the description. Log what you're seeing every single day. Next Sunday is session 4. So we get to go into supply and demand zones. That's where we start to pinpoint exactly where we want to enter a trade. So you don't want to miss it. make sure the notification bell is on so that you are notified when the next video drops. So ending in prayer, as always, God, we thank you for elevation and we thank you for going to the next level. We thank you that every single thing that we're doing, the time that we're taking out to learn the skill, the effort and the discipline that we're putting in is helping us to excel in every area of our lives, because we understand how we do anything is how we do everything. Help us to not only be disciplined and great in the area of trading, but in every single area of our lives. With everything that we do, we honor you, God, and we bless your holy name. In Jesus' name, amen. See y'all next session.